Hi, so today is the 30th of November 2021. So I wrote this book. You can go to my website, www.susanmeeling.com. You can read all sorts of different things, see what I've been working on over the years, so on and so forth. So there's this book that I completed in the year of 2020, officially I believe it's January 2020, where I go over the time frame of the year of 2014 into about the year of 2019 for everything that I dealt with in a combined factor as to my Medal of Honor art project trips. I give some details in reference to two specific prior books that I put together. All three of these books are a autobiography, fact-based set of books. So there's Finding a Silver Lining, written by me, Susan MeeLing. I am a reverend, ordained reverend. I'm a confirmed member since the age officially of 13 years old of the Presbyterian Church at Old Tennant Presbyterian Church in Tennant, New Jersey. However, Finding the Silver Lining, written by Susan MeeLing, which I go over quite a few things. Now, in Finding a Silver Lining, it is all fact-based. There is no nicknames, no monikers, nothing of that at all. It does go over the reasons why in reference to the adventures of Susan MeeLing, scuba diver extraordinaire. In Finding a Silver Lining by Susan MeeLing, it explains why in reference to the adventures of Susan MeeLing, scuba diver extraordinaire, is written that way, where it does not have my legal widow name. It goes over that. You have to actually read these books or go through the journal blog entries on my website, the Ornery PSA, where I go over, I actually have my legal widow last name. So for those of you who do have the intellect to actually read that and actually go over that, you have my legal widow last name to be able to clarify and verify my scuba diving certifications. But that requires, reading. Because sometimes I don't go over all that. I mean, I have some official YouTube videos where I explain my ex-in-laws. Now, I've also explained how I didn't get the legal divorce from my now dead ex-husband because he died before that could happen. We were separated for the second and final time before his death. I didn't see him for 2 days. Different parts of the city of San Antonio. Everybody that knew in person in the year of 2008 knew that my son and my daughter were delivered no more than 2.5 years after I woke up from my coma. People who knew me during those times knew that I had a subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain. There is nobody that actually assisted me in a way that actually would have helped to keep my son, my daughter, and I safe from what occurred in regards of their biological father, who I am a legal widow of only because we didn't ever actually complete any spiritual marriage. He did not believe in any spirituality whatsoever. While some people might wish otherwise, he did not ever believe that. He called himself an atheist. I told him that was not the correct terminology for what an actual atheist is, but it is what it is. I dealt with a lot of conversations that it is what it is. People knew about the dress blues situation as well, and those who've actually either spoken with me and or read as far as my journal blog or even the books that I specifically mentioned, I don't hide that I didn't graduate basic training. I've always been against stolen valor. However, I've always been in favor of respecting, key word, respecting where my constitutional rights and amendments came from. Respecting the individuals thereof. in every possible capacity. So I've written about what happened as far as the pieces of paper that were the beginning portions for what could have been the historical and spiritual rubbings. It's a very long process that the curation for an actual historical and spiritual rubbing, it takes over a year for it to occur. But I already explained in the modern day book, from just the time frame of 2014, in August 2014 to be specific, into the year of 2019, of all of these problems that I had personally dealt with, in addition to what occurred in regards of finding A and finding the silver lining, which finding the silver lining has monikers in comparison to anybody having any real names in there, with the exception of those specifically in finding a silver lining. So anybody I knew in the lifestyle in any area, your real name wasn't ever put out there, not even your FetLife name. Let me clarify that. So for clarification, nobody had that. So only in 2019, 2020, and 2021 did that ever become a thing, because of everything that occurred in reference to my Medal of Honor art project trips. Because it actually is a process. It actually is. There is a multitude of things. Just because I can get up and switch up my stuff doesn't mean that there's not a process involved. It literally takes me a while to actually prepare myself for a trip. Just because I did the state of Washington, that doesn't change the rest of it. But because of the situation in Seattle, Washington, that 6-7 markers of Medal of Honor recipients that I spent hours cleaning up, that alone is literally the starting point. And that's actually in August, if not September, of 2014, in reference to my Medal of Honor art project trip in the totality. So anybody who's upset, possibly go to that point in 2014 as far as my Medal of Honor art project, for my Medal of Honor artwork, those completed pieces, that's since 2014. It's not just because of what happened in Texas again, as far as after I got back to the state of Texas, after how I wound up in Washington state to begin with. So the combined factors of everything that went on, literally, if you read the details, it would have had the explanations for you to understand what I had gone through and what was needed. I spent hours cleaning up those Medal of Honor recipient markers. 6 of them. They are bigger than most tables. Those markers, they're not the little markers. They are the ones, they're the epitaphs that cover 2 feet past each side of the end of the casket and about a foot on each side of the width of the casket that I spent hours cleaning. Each one, 6 of them, of those Medal of Honor recipient markers. So any of you, it doesn't matter whether you're from the state of Texas and or military connected, you didn't clean that up. I did. You didn't pick up each one of those individual pieces. I did. The entire epitaph for 6 of them were completely covered. None of you assisted with that. None of you helped me with that back then. And then the fact that there hasn't been the point in time where anybody has simply just acknowledged me and knowing me.
in truth. In Washington State, looking back in 2019, looking back in 2020, and looking back in 2021, those are the only times where I ever put it together that, you know what, maybe there were actually people who showed up, but just like the way they were in Texas, they didn't have the human decency to actually believe me. Because most likely, they didn't actually speak with me in truth. But I did explain that in the modern day book. So it's known about the after effects from my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. It's known about the cognitive disorders and memory deficits. Correct? I've written about that a time or two. I actually know I have. That's how many times I've done it. That I actually remember writing it. Just like it clicked that I had been told as many times as I had that I explained it. And yet, what did I have to do in 2019, 2020, and 2021? Had to explain it again? You know, I got told that I wasn't intelligent. I don't know. I don't know what you consider intelligence is at that point. I don't know. Because if I'm not considered intelligent for having recognized that, then I don't know what intelligence is to anybody else. I really don't. So, you know, you can be upset, but you should be upset at the people who caused my Medal of Honor art project trips, the problems. You shouldn't ever be mad at me. You should be upset as to who caused those problems. I have been respectful the entire time. You should be mad at them from 2014. You shouldn't ever blame anybody other than those people. Not me. I didn't do anything. I didn't ask anybody to go along because I knew what it would take. I had to get to a certain point. I'm very methodical. I can make a joke that I was baptized first at a Methodist church. I'm extremely methodical. I'm also a Virgo. So, you know, maybe there's some astrological aspects that you could pay attention to in that reality. And then there's the situations that who has actually assisted me when it comes to my scuba diving? Who has actually been there to actually help with that? Who made any recommendations that would actually be helpful after being informed that I landed at the bottom of the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico area a total of 8 times? Different areas. It's either 6 or 8 times that I specifically, each time. Yes, I knew that in the civilian recreational way, yeah, that's not considered normal. But I did explain that when I got into scuba diving, I wasn't getting in the civilian sector. I explained that. I told those scuba divers I met, I wasn't getting involved in the civilian sector at all for scuba diving. That wasn't my intention in any way, at all. There wasn't anything as far as my scuba diving that was civilian or recreational, except for the fact that I went to civilian instructors. That's it. Nothing more than that. Maybe some of them have military connections or law enforcement connections as far as like their direct lineage, not friends, not acquaintances, not that. No, their bloodline. Maybe they do, or maybe they were adopted officially in that regard. But I didn't ever get into scuba diving under those pretexts. I did explain Marine and Science Technology School with the Navy attachment, as well as the after effects of my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, which happened during basic training. I explained the aspects of growing up in New Jersey, going out to the beach and swimming out to the buoys, swimming out to the, the jetties and stuff like that from the shoreline. I explained that. There's nothing about my scuba diving in 2009 that was ever, in any capacity, in a civilian recreational way. It was purely out of protection. For, people on land, the military guys that go out, in the Navy and the Marine Corps and the Coast Guard, because I had dealt with certain things. I took care of it. Nobody ever asked me what I did. Nobody cared. Everybody else was in this whole, it's fun time sort of thing in comparison to what it was. I mean, for them, yeah, I'm sure it might have been fun. For them, maybe. For me, it was enjoyable-ish. I mean, it was work, a lot of work, to clear up some of the stuff in the different areas. I did literally go out to smaller town areas where there were bigger lakes to actually clean up the trash from the bottom of the lake, which is kind of weird because it was sanctioned by International Scuba to go and land at the bottom of the lake. It's called Hell's Gate. And so it was brought up by them to land at the bottom of the lake to do a cleanup. That's what they did. They had multiple scuba divers go drop down to the bottom of the lake and clear it up. Now, when I had surfaced the first time, I realized that the majority of people had gotten back on the boat, and I had asked what happened. And they said, well, they can't get down to the bottom of the lake. They're having a hard time. Well, because it's deep. Duh. Oh, give me another trash bag. I'll go and get some more. And they were like, oh, okay. So I dropped down again. Now, mind you, this is after Florida. Oh, wait, no. It might have been before Florida. But yeah, I brought up about 9 trash bags. And by the time I get back up from, going up, dropping down to get the trash bags full of the trash from the beer bottles and beer cans and all that sort of stuff, and then surface back up at the top of the water, and here you go, let me get another bag. All of the other scuba divers that had shown up, they were all on the boat. By the time I actually got to I think I got 10 bags total. Then I get to the surface and I'm like, oh, well, I've gone through about half of my tank of air. I guess I could do a surface interval now. And all of them were instructors, with the exception of about 5 people. So, however deep the area of Hell's Gate in the state of Texas for that lake is, not even there did I ever get any help or assistance, when you really take that into consideration. So if there were scuba divers that were, well, let's play a game. I don't play games. I don't find games amusing. I do not enjoy games. There is nothing fun to me about a game at all. Nothing. There's nothing at all that I can actually enjoy. And that's even before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. I was an extremely diligent study when it came to education. I'm half Chinese. Maybe there's an Asian somewhere who could go over and give some details as to it might be a stereotype, not all, but I grew up with a buck gong and a buck poo. Better believe I was educated. Better believe I was taught how to study in a heavy duty way. my grades had to be a certain minimum. My actual scuba diving certifications, as far as the 26 certifications I earned, I got 100 on every individual certification that I earned, with the exception of my National Geographic Open Water, where I got 2 questions incorrect, and it had to do with the arithmetic. Other than that, I got 100 across every one of my other 25 scuba diving certifications. Yes, my cavern certification, instead of earning it in September when the trip actually was, because of what I was told as far as the individual who has a different number regarding my cavern scuba diving certification in November instead of September, I was the only female that was in the class. But I should have been certified officially in September, and I did the pool buoyancy in the beginning of October. It was the first weekend back. So that sort of feminazism that had gone on in the year of 2009, any scuba divers cause any problems to my Medal of Honor art project trips that started from the state of Texas? Because if so, you might want to take responsibility. Not might, you have no choice but to. You have to take responsibility for the fact that nobody asked me what I would personally need and require. Because I did not post as to where I was going, because I didn't ever, at any point in time, ever discuss the specific routes that I was going, which areas, any of that. Granted, there's only so many per state, but it doesn't change the fact that I didn't go over those details. I might have said which state I was going to, but that's not an open invitation as far as my Medal of Honor art project trips. I explained I was doing historical and spiritual rubbings. There's a whole process to that. I have been respectful. The individuals from the time frame, starting regarding my Medal of Honor art project trips, from the very first one in August of 2014, any from the state of Texas that were a part of that problem, which officially, by technicalities, would include how I wound up in Washington State with my son to begin with after the Stoney LaRue concert at Cowboys Dance Hall in March of 2013, by official standards, because of that fact. So if those people didn't take that in consideration, you need to. I may have wrote about it before, or most likely after, the modern day book, written by me, Reverend Susan MeeLing. Just that fact alone. Remember, I was in a house where there was a lock on the door that I was kept in a room of, that, whole thing as far as the downstairs area, as far as the house in Lakewood, where my son was upstairs and all that. Remember, that individual with that dress blues picture from where he said that he had gone to Air Force officer basic training at Lackland Air Force Base, that male had been around my Medal of Honor art project pieces. So I had to heal all of that. As far as the different pieces of paper in comparison. So that way, those individual completed pieces that are actual historical, actual spiritual rubbings, actual completed Medal of Honor art project pieces, that way, those individuals, as far as my completed Medal of Honor art project pieces, could be healed from. Now, if other people cause damages to that, then that's on them. Because then I can't fix that. If there was damage caused to any of the other pieces that I had completed because nobody has actually asked me or spoken with me, and I would guesstimate they just assumed in comparison to paying attention to that fact, that's a different situation completely. Altogether. But I can't do anything about it because if I'm accurate about that, that would mean I would have to be spoken with in person, face to face, in person, so that way I could actually know. Otherwise, it's just a hypothetical. And there's nothing that I can do to actually assist by choice. Because I was only doing things out of respect, and that would have been done out of disrespect to my Medal of Honor art project and to me. All of those guys, all of their families, all of their connections, that would be that choice, not mine. I've remained respectful from the very beginning. But again, similarly to what I've complained about, how nobody's ever actually asked me what would actually be needed, because no, I'm not going to put it in writing. No, I'm not going to go over the details of, because it requires the respect of that time. That's why. So people who haven't had the time to actually respect what I've been working on, because they haven't had the time for those meetings, even just an actual discussion over what would genuinely be needed, I'm not going to put it out there. I've already learned, as far as from 2014, 2021 now. I learned. I know better. I'm not going to ask for it, because there's nothing for me to ask for if nobody has the time for an actual meeting with me in person, face to face, because it's my Medal of Honor art project. I've sent letters, handwritten letters, requesting contact back for a meeting to go over it, to discuss it. Not for any assumptions, for actual discussions to go over the details of what would actually be needed. I don't need any more assumptions. I've dealt with that. Maybe there's somebody in the military who could say that there's certain protocols somewhere. Maybe there's a manual in the military somewhere. One of the branches. Maybe there's a branch or a division, I don't know, that has, I don't want to assume that maybe, I mean, it's literally not called a jumping jack. It's called a side straddle hop. Please do not pretend that you wouldn't have the slightest inclination that there would actually be needing that. So, as far as my Medal of Honor art project stuff, I can say for 100% certainty, I've always remained respectful. I don't know if I can actually say that about anybody else as far as my Medal of Honor art project trips and my Medal of Honor art project artwork. But it wouldn't be any different than the way my now dead ex-husband was. Wouldn't be any different. He hated the fact that I stood up against stolen valor. I dealt with conversations because of that. Literally. That Fast Eddie's pool hall situation. That
that was as it was after the garage situation. As far as my paintings and stuff, my artwork, what do you think I dealt with? Realistically, I explained. And besides, what would that make you to actually want to be worse than that? I mean, seriously, have I not suffered enough? I mean, every day I deal with headaches. Every day. And then I still make attempts to go and do and be better. I literally have just gotten back from putting myself through what I thought I could handle. I forgot. When you ring a handbell, you have to have it near your ears to dampen the sound. I literally figured that out today. So for all of you who ever thought I was doing anything other than telling the truth, how many lies have you told that you couldn't ever believe that someone could actually be truthful? What is in your life and your past that is to that level? So yeah. Took a minimum of 3 times of ringing handbells to realize that. That was why my headaches are at the level they are. That's all. But hey, that's quicker than figuring other things out. But it also takes that level of pain for that to actually make sense. And I don't need any more pain. That doesn't help me. I figure things out quicker in a different way. When my pain isn't as bad as it gets, I can figure things out so much quicker when I'm in a good mood. A genuine good mood. I haven't had that, especially since waking up from my coma. Although I don't know, which one should I go over? Should I go over the coma from my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000? Or was I what is it considered as far as Brackenridge after the rave in Austin? While I still had that subarachnoid hemorrhage in the frontal lobe of my brain. Which, by the way, how different is it from the handbell situation to those downtown Austin rallies that I pushed myself to go to in support? Did anybody ever think about that on top of everything else that I've dealt with? Or is that not something that ever, in the slightest, had the intellect of that? Again, I was told that I went from college algebra with trigonometry and calculus to 2nd grade math. I don't know. It might be the other way around in comparison. I don't know. I really don't. Is there a thing that if you're at a certain intellect level, that you have to be put in a certain island sort of way? Is there some sort of thing that if you're at a certain level, is that something that actually occurs? Because if that is, why? What would that mean? What type of life would that be? I mean, I applied to Mensa, but what would that actually entail? In realistic truth. And seriously, just being respectful. There's a difference when you are invited on a trip than just, especially with that. All people had to do was literally ask me, using your words as a mature adult would. When in person, face to face with me, in person, or if you contacted me via email where I responded. I haven't received any. For clarification, so if anybody said that they received an email response from me before the year of 2019, specifically October of 2019, if anybody before the year of 2019 in October claims that they received an email from me about my Medal of Honor art project, you did not. Just for clarifications. So if there was that was not from me at all. Because I would have very specific details as to what the requirements would be. I don't know who would do that. Probably somebody less mature that wouldn't take that seriously. Because as I've sent out letters that are handwritten letters, that is an example of how that actually would have been, where there would be the request for an in-person meeting. I would not ever do it any other way because of the facts regarding the truth as to how things are done. So while some people might have thought it's a game, no. They are genuine historical and spiritual rubbings when it comes to the completed pieces of artwork from my Medal of Honor art project. Those are actual historical, actual spiritual rubbings in complete format per individual completed Medal of Honor art project piece. It takes the time of the curation for it to, that's why they would sit in the house. I could have dropped them off quickly. No. When it came to the curation part, which it is not the same as curating art, of course, but it is the only word I have. For the curation of the historical and curation of the spiritual, for the completed aspects of my Medal of Honor art project, it only occurs after the encasement. It doesn't occur before then. So those pieces of paper were exactly that. Pieces of paper compared to the completed pieces from my Medal of Honor art project, which I did acknowledge my now dead ex-husband. He would have hated my Medal of Honor art project. He would have hated that I was patriotic, as I had always been. He would have hated that I would care that much. He would not have ever appreciated anything I actually did. That's my son and my daughter's biological father for that reference. All you have to do is look at the Dress Blues pictures from JCPenney's in the year of 2007. That's all you need. And that would let you know exactly how much, if he were alive, that he would have hated that. But he died in January of 2008, from what I was told. So officially, from the beginning point of my Medal of Honor art project, who could find something wrong with me discussing it with someone who claimed to have graduated officer basic training at Lackland Air Force Base? Could there be an energetic healing that would have been needed? The answer is yes, obviously. If other people decided to make choices, well, you don't make choices out of anger. You can't undo that if you do. You need to make sure you have the emotional intellect to make the correct choices, because you should not ever make a final decision when you are angry. You might regret it, hypothetically, by a lot. I wouldn't know though. I do the best I can, so that way I can truthfully live without regrets. I make every attempt possible. I can't say that for everybody else. So, while I don't have any official word regarding any of the overall generalized aspects to the disabled American veterans or the American Legions or the Veterans Affairs or the Veterans of Foreign War locations, I thought I sent out letters. I thought I did. I kind of have been writing a lot of letters, especially in regards of while in Washington State above the Mason-Dixon line and in that area with all that electrical stuff. So I did stop by a VFW in Fife. So I have made in-person attempts, which are obviously with headaches and migraines, as military guys would know. It takes a lot to actually just get up and go sometimes. So I have made those actual attempts in much larger capacities than a handwritten letter. However, I haven't ever received that contact back from anybody at all about my Medal of Honor art project. At all. Despite how much I have done. I mean, I even did stop by that VFW, or Veterans of Foreign Wars, in Fife in the year of 2015. Spoke with the guy in his office. But I wasn't ever asked anything in reference to what I would personally need in any capacity. So if there are those who possibly did not believe that when I complete It's a historical and spiritual rubbing. If you had an emotional response to just the pieces of paper with, by the way, was just my healing energy, you can refer to what I've discussed as well as written about as far as the laptop is concerned. It's the equivalent to that. As far as my healing energy, that's all those pieces of paper were. So if you got upset because of, what are the 7 stages of grief before you accept the truth? You take that in consideration for any who wished that they couldn't believe. Hi. I've been me this whole time. So that would be on everybody else for that clarification, to accept that. I suppose since I was the original baby Jesus Christ in the first live nativity multiple years in a row, I guess I can make this joke now. Do you accept the fact that in the 1980s, I'm the original baby Jesus Christ? And by that terminology, I was born a female, genetically, biologically, so it's not Lord. That's not how that goes. I do like Lords of Acid though. That's a good band. And I also like Lord, like there's that group Lord, right? I like that. But I've been known as Lady Dori, Belle, and Lady MeeLing much longer. So, okay, it's a bad joke. It's 2/3 of a pun, scuba diving. Trip planning, for a dive plan. Only go to a certain distance before you have to check certain things if you are a safe scuba diver that pays attention to details. I did earn 26 scuba diving certifications for many reasons, not just 1 or 2. 1, yes, because I wanted to make sure every possible scuba dive, which does mean there's planning involved, safe as possible for each portion of that scuba dive. Whether the safest descent, the safest scuba dive, safest ascent, safest safety stop, safest surface intervals, etc. Every time. Yes, there's additional portions of MAST, or Marine and Science Technology School, with the Navy attachment. There is that. There is also that underwater travel system that I came up with back in, my childhood when I was in elementary school. But I was growing up in New Jersey in the 1980s and 1990s. I grew up around that. I know better. Those who know that, as many as have said, they know about how New Jerseyans are. It's kind of a big one to have paid attention to, by far. And so that's kind of a reality, but I can make a joke as far as the color in reference to the water in certain areas. I mean, I haven't hidden it. I haven't. No, I haven't. See, I have not. I've always been honest. Can't hide that. And I can make a joke about my shirt, because, it's in the water.
I was specifically in the Atlantic area. You know where the Bermuda Triangle is. That's all. Yeah, that's all. You know, for the Boca one as well as the Vandenberg. Yeah. I can make a joke because the yellow came out. This is the only way. I mean, like, there's this one back here. This is how I believe I actually have Asian in me, cause the yellow. Only when my tattoo was fresh. That was the only time I saw it. It's the only time. I got some pictures that were from that time. After, I think it was like a year and a half. Like, I guess I really am half Chinese. I guess so. I have the proof right here. Because it disappeared. It must. I really guess I do have olive in my skin tone. I really am half Chinese. Look. I would say, who knew? The answer is I do, right now. Because the yellow is no longer there. I'm sure there are people with different ethnic backgrounds. They probably can't have certain tattoos as far as certain colorations, because no matter what, the colors tend to kind of blend into their skin, or maybe the colors fade quicker or something of that, no matter what. Oh, I guess I am half Chinese. Because that used to have yellow right there. Up until a year and a half later, maybe two. I think it was 2 years. I think it was a total of 2 years that yellow was there. And then about the end of 2013 into 2014, I was in the shower and I was like, where did the yellow go? And then I made the joke. Well, I guess I am half Chinese. I can make fun of myself very easily. Like that. Very. Anyway, don't ask me why the yellow can stay there. But I also, when I had gotten this one, as far as the crescent moon with the spiritual symbol, as far as the combined aspects of divinity, I had actually spoken with my tattoo artist about gold as far as a tattoo in comparison to yellow. So maybe that I can joke about. Maybe, well, it's technically supposed to be that way. But yeah, maybe I can. Well, it didn't come out shiny gold, but it's kind of, but not. I don't know. I don't, because there's the purple. I don't know. I'm just getting a rinky dinky dink. That was just perfect timing. I can't help it. Nonetheless, I mean, I'm just saying, I got my spiritual symbol, the prayer right there. And I don't know. But we were talking about gold ink, because I thought that would be sharp looking with, you know. That was probably the only way I could wear gold. So I got a little gauntlet of... and you know, I can make a joke. I can literally make a joke in pictures from my tattoos, as I can make a joke. I literally created one by technicalities, because these are my tattoo stuff. So yeah. So there's a silver lining for the situation. And so I recently also posted a picture on my Instagram account, www.susanmeeling.com. So it's like my website without the 2 dots. And I reiterate those portions in reference to my Medal of Honor art project trips. For that particular reference to the modern day book, I believe Bush, when I was out, not Garner area, but maybe that is the town. I know it was after the Satsop area where Edward Shahan was at. Yeah, so I took that picture and I was doing what I could to get that picture because I knew, I knew, I knew that was out there. It's a unidentified flying object or UAP aerial phenomenon, I suppose. I would consider, if you take a look at as on a different topic real quick, if you take a look at the differences between some of my pictures regarding, more specifically my Instagram account, however, for references of my film photography as well as digital photography, I would clarify that the UFO would be more along in reference to the picture of what actually looks like a ship compared to the different lights, which they technically would in certain aspects be, in my opinion, but I could see those being more in the reference of a UAP because it being an aerial phenomenon and not necessarily knowing the actual distance compared to the way it's known that light can travel. So the light from the sun takes about 8 minutes as the earth spins on its axis. So it takes about 8 minutes for the sunlight to actually reach the visible surface of the earth. In that reference, I could see the UAP fitting into that particular situation regarding some of those green dots, some of the white dots, the different lines. If you take a look at several pictures that I've posted, I know that there are multiple pictures in one, the way Instagram has it available, which makes it easier. But when you get to swiping and seeing the different pictures, you can see more. This particular last posting that I had done, though, that is one of what I have been honing in on to actually work at taking a picture of. I have seen a multitude of. That particular one is it is closer compared to the picture of the one that I took in Richland, Washington in the year of 2020. That particular picture I recently posted today, 30 November 2021. As far as the individual picture, that is closer to what was in Indiana in the year of 1999. That would be like if you were to take the two pictures, it would be better in certain references, but the picture from today would be far closer to what was following when I was going from, technically it was Illinois and supposed to be to Ohio, but I took a wrong turn and I drove out to Iowa, and I was supposed to go to Ohio. But hey, I've been to Ohio since. Technically, this year, I was in Ohio. Because I drove through it to go to New York State. So technically, and I can make the joke that I had already been to Iowa. Because that would be 2019. Which I can make that joke again in a different way and reference, well, I did go to and then I did, during that year, I did go to Illinois. I did. From the Iowa trip, which was irony because I went out to Crystal Lake, Illinois, and I had put the GPS as far as the address that I remembered from when I was in Illinois, and I had made an attempt to see if my memory would be okay enough. And so I drove around and I didn't ever recognize any of the areas. I didn't even see, I don't know if I even found the high school I went to. I remembered Old Tenet Presbyterian Church. And I remembered Asher Holmes Elementary School. But I didn't recognize the area. I acknowledge the tears that I did. I was a big baby about that, because I thought I had done better to actually work on that. Unfortunately, I did not find what I was looking for. I mean, I found, but I just didn't remember. And so it wasn't anything that really looked familiar. I mean, I can make that joke because I don't look as I did when I was in Crystal Lake, Illinois. Then I had my longer brunette hair. I did not have any tattoos whatsoever. At all. The closest probably my face, probably my hair part, that might be the only thing. Because sometimes I do it on the other side. But usually I think that might be the only thing that might have remained consistent. If I wore my hair down, I don't know. I don't remember wearing my hair down very often for pictures. So most likely, depending on my hairstyle, it'd either be in the center or off to the side. And I think, if I can recall correctly, it'd be on this side. But yeah, I didn't really remember as much as I had wished I could have. I know I did remember Powder Puff. And I think it's only 2021 compared to 1998 and 1999, into possibly 2000 before my basic training. I think hypothetically I might have had someone hit on me. Back then, but I figured it out this year in 2021. In my defense, I did have a head injury a little bit later, but that's also, I had stuff I needed to take care of. So if that lets you know that part that's just how I am. Because I didn't grow up where, in any way, similar to my biological sister. So where she was allowed to date at much younger than I was not allowed to go on my first date until I was 16 years old. And if you met my biological father, I was not going to do anything to get myself in additional trouble. I already dealt with my biological sister. Those who have known her and know how she does certain things, you can understand why. You can understand why. No, I tell the truth. Because with friends like my biological sister who needs enemies, you really think about that. So for those who would know and have a inclination in comparison to where I haven't said anything officially in that capacity until 2019, which is in 2020 in January, I got to see two people who I kind of recognized. One I recognized, one I kind of recognized-ish. But yeah, that was in Austin before the way everything went. So yeah, but for that clarification again, in reference to the lifestyles, I didn't ever put anybody's actual names at all in finding A or finding the silver lining at all. So I did do a Dropbox link. Now I don't know how that works because I didn't really think about that, to be honest. It was more, I knew that it was the only way that I could help get stuff taken care of better. Not that that really would ever, but I wanted to make sure. But it is originally my book, Finding A Silver Lining by me, Susan MeeLing. I put all that out there. I copyrighted it well before I put the link out, just for clarification. So it would be considered plagiarizing if somebody ever were to try to use that officially, because I already copyrighted it legally. And because of my legal first name and my legal middle name with my birthday and all that other verifying information, it's mine, 100%. Nonetheless, for that clarification, I did not ever out anybody. I've been outed. I was outed in 2004. I was outed in 2005. I was outed in 2008. I was outed in 2009. I was outed in 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013. I wrote about how I was interrogated. So, by my biological mother and biological father, I was outed officially. I was outed multiple times. I did what I could not to out. And by official standards, I actually was involved in the lifestyle in New Jersey, New York City, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia because I knew people. I didn't ever partake in that stuff, but especially in certain areas as far as what's more well known to the later 1980s into the early 1990s, mid-1990s. It's why it was just natural to me. I just needed to remember certain things as far as certain intricacies. Not necessarily being involved, but you can actually take a look at how my involvement was during my time in the lifestyle, whether before I wound up in Washington State, as far as the state of Texas, as well as in reference to Washington State. You can see how I was, and those of you who may have been out in those areas, I was that little person who had pigtails. You can see when I go dancing with my tutus. I mean, I wear corsets now, but I usually had a tutu. Anyway, and sneakers, and you know, the 1980s high socks and stuff like that. Yeah, that's a thing. 1990s, it still was there as a thing. So, hi. Surprise! I grew up. Yeah, I'm little-ish. I'm 5'4" now. I'm still little. If you are taller than me, I am little compared to my official standards. If you have broader shoulders than I'm little. So I'm still a little person. I'm just older now and a little bit taller. Anyway, for those clarifications, hopefully that all makes sense. Because however that Cowboys Dance Hall Stoney LaRue concert in March of 2013 with Kevin and his wife and those other females and then that male, in conjunction to how my son and I wound up in Washington State after the family court thing in San Antonio. After my ex-sister-in-law and all those problems, as far as the one in Georgia as well as the one in Texas, and my ex-mother-in-law, just for clarifications, by technicalities. Now, I know how to clarify and do things without causing any problems to the completed Medal of Honor art project pieces. Meaning without any damage to them. They wouldn't ever have to have any changes. But I also don't make decisions to finalize in an emotional state. I know better. No matter how upset I might be, I will not ever make a final decision in an emotional state if there has to be, especially if there are long-term impacts. So, for example, my transfer, it was a waste of my time as far as how long it took to get the transfer done, because I could have worked on all this stuff much sooner. Yes, I did make that video in reference to the governor aspect. I had stuff to do. Some people actually have a capability of multitasking and taking care of more than one thing at a time. Maybe the aspects of time frames regarding my Medal of Honor art project books, my journal blog, the Ornery PSA, etc. could give an idea as to that, because it's not as though I'd ever been approached by anybody to actually speak about getting it done after what occurred with the precinct situation in Hayes County during the earlier portions of 2020. So since that didn't occur, as far as any contact back yet again, I still had things I needed to do. You know, that 20-year memorial. So if there were any journal blogs from the Ornery PSA on my website that cleared anything up, as far as the Northeast area specifically, for that 20-year memorial, that could have been done beforehand by a long time. It's a bunch of stuff that I could have had taken care of if I didn't actually have to deal with that. You know what would be awesome? I'm gonna throw this out there. I've kind of sent out some letters and emails and etc. It would be amazing to actually have return contact. In a way, similar to how I sent it out. So if I sent out a handwritten letter, maybe that would be an idea in comparison. Or maybe if there was possibly a phone number, that would be my phone number, maybe there could be a phone call. Or if I put my website on there, maybe I have a contact form. That would make it easy. But I haven't had that.
in the capacities of what I contacted about or any possibility as to connections. I was told as a child, ask and ye shall receive. Well, I haven't had that. That requires answers. I painted that though. I did clarify that though. And I was going to do a whole thing with those pieces, but you know, when people get involved with things that I didn't ask, or more importantly, I was not asked, that's a problem. But that would take being respectful of the after effects from my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. That would require that. That would require that actual respect of those facts. I haven't ever had that. That's nothing new at all, whatsoever, obviously. Because similarly, in a different way. So my now dead ex-husband, he didn't respect the after effects from my head injury. Want to know how you can have the proof of that? I gave birth to my son and my daughter 1.5 and 2.5 years after waking up from my coma. And it was known throughout medical hold unit that I was being taught the names of colors and rank all over again. In a different area, I was taught how to count to 10. Just saying. It's not like that was ever respected. It's cool that other people, that they've been able to, what is that? What is that? I don't know what that is. What is it to actually reality? So, but it depends on your background and what your upbringing was and what you were educated in. I would guesstimate having a large factor too. So, I've always told the truth though. Can you accept that now? Go to my website, www.susanmeeling.com, and hopefully this makes more sense.